Okay. All right. So let's talk Pac-12 here, football. This is a loaded league. If you're not watching Pac-12 football, it's the last year you get to do this. Last year we get to talk about Pac-12 after dark. Folks, we've said this from day one. We've said all this when we started talking about 2023. There is some really, really good football being played out west this year. I would argue that the best quarterback play is going to be in the Pac-12 this year. There's a loaded amount of quarterbacks. There's not enough time that we could do this conference preview justice. So, Fresh, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are the three biggest games? Because there's a ton. Like, there's a huge slate. Like, we could pick at least 2 or 3 games off of almost every, and you're right, maybe the top half of the Pac-12 schedule, saying that these are good games. So which 3 did you kind of narrow it down to?
Well, folks, if you're looking for a breakdown right off the bat of the Pac-12 quarterbacks, there's an article in Spinable Sports, my power rankings of all of them because they're loaded. I mean, the top 8 are legit playmakers, and some of them could be top 3 in other leagues. That's how good this league is right now. But when it comes to the Pac-12, USC is not getting the cupcakes this year. They aren't getting the 2 games they have to play. They have to play the legit players. They got Oregon and Washington added to the league. They're going to have to find ways to play a much tougher schedule this time around, and that's going to create better TV, better viewing, more chaos in the league. When it comes to the 3 games that I say we have to watch, it starts off with Utah at Oregon State. These are the 2 outliers when it comes to great offense and loaded offense in the rest of the league. These 2 teams are going to play amazing defense. They're going to run the football, play action, manage it. It's going to be old school. So if you ever want to turn back time and watch what it was maybe in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, this is what you're going to get, and it's going to be fun. Going up to Corvallis is going to be a Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard on FS1, under the lights. It's going to be a grudge match, and you're going to see 2 great teams fighting it out. And unfortunately, one's going to have to lose the football game, but it's going to be great defense, run the football, play action, good, true Americana football from back in the day. So tune into that one. The next one, this game, we might top 100 points by halftime. The Washington Huskies travel to Coliseum and take on USC. I don't think either team's really good at playing defense in the first place, and you bring in amazing offenses on top of that, 2 probably the best quarterbacks in the country shooting around. We could see like a 65-62 football game or 70-75. Like, the scoreboard operator is going to get a workout, so maybe, give him some water, some, electrolytes, get it prepped, because that's going to be a fun show. That game takes place on November 4th. That game might even be a preview for the championship game itself. And then another one, USC, Oregon. The reason why Dan Lanning was hired, in my opinion, was to be the other side to defend Lincoln Riley. He went to Oregon to build themselves a defense and build a program that's going to be tough, intent of stopping Lincoln Riley in that offense there at USC. They both were hired within a week of each other. They finally get to match up November 11th, a week after the Washington at USC game. So USC's got to be ready back-to-back weeks of playing tough opponents in their own league, one on the road, one at home. That's going to be a true test of Lincoln Riley and how that program is built, how that program has progressed. But also, all those other teams who've recruited well at same can play at the same level. Those are my 3 games that I'm saying to watch out for, but there's about 7 or 10 others in the league that we can even list out here if we wanted to.
Yeah, Fresh, I thought you were about ready to start quoting Cher, if you could turn back time, if you could find a way. Well, you'd take back all the words that have hurt you, and you'd stay. You'd stay, because that's what if you could take it all back, the Pac-12 would stay together after this. Fresh, I think you're spot on with every single game you picked. I think that Utah-Oregon State game is going to be like maybe one of my favorite games of this season, because I hate that. I really hope that game's like a 7 overtime game, because we both are huge fans and have so much respect for Kyle Whittingham at Utah. We love what they're doing in Corvallis for the Oregon State Beavers. And it's like, this is going to be a heavyweight fight that a lot of people will kind of be like, man, they'll kind of pass it off. But it's going to be an amazing game that if you guys just lock into that game, watch it, just enjoy the good football that you're going to see. That's going to be a remarkable game. I definitely tune into that one. I kind of circled Utah at USC October 21st as my first game to kind of watch, just because Utah has not come to LA for Lincoln Riley. You know, USC went to Utah last year, lost by a point. Then they go to Vegas, get shellacked in Vegas, get absolutely boat raced. Now the game's in LA. Does it change it? Or does it give Utah a little bit more motivation to really perform in that game? The next one, again, and these are both the same weekend. You talked about Oregon State playing Utah. I'm going to say UCLA playing Utah. And UCLA is my surprise team on this for this season, just because I think that they're kind of laying in the weeds. And I think Chip Kelly kind of likes that. Chip Kelly's been kind of the focal point. We started off this podcast 3 years ago talking about whether or not Chip Kelly would be fired. And then next thing you know, DTR Charbonnet leads UCLA to be a really nicely talked about team. They've lost some of those players this year. What do they have coming in? They have some talent there in Westwood. Watch out for that game because it's going to be fun to see what UCLA does traveling up to Corvallis. And then the big game for me, this was a classic. I wound up watching this game at Mike's Garage Bar, and Oregon at Washington, October 14th. That'll be a night game. I guarantee it. That's a fun one. I can't wait to see what they have. Bo Nix versus Penix Jr. I'm telling you right now, Penix Jr.'s my favorite to win the Heisman. I know he might not, but that kid's such a good quarterback out there. Can't wait for that game. So those are my three there, Fresh. I gave you my sleeper team. My champion is the Washington Huskies. I'm rolling with Penix Jr. this year. I'm gonna kind of shock everybody. I'm not going to USC. I'm not going to Utah. I'm gonna go Washington and the Huskies. I'm really buying a bunch of stock with Penix Jr. this year. But I think the most important player to watch this season in the Pac-12 is Kalen Bullock out of USC, the safety. That defense for USC has to be better. If they want to make any type of jump this season, they have talent on offense. That defense has to be better. It's got to be led by Bullock. They got to continue to force the turnovers. That defense must be better in order for them to make any noise. So that's my player for the Pac-12.
Well, I'm going, quote unquote, players. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. You have arguably the number one overall player in the country, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders, obviously Deion's son. They were 5- and 4-star players respectively. They both spurned bigger opportunities, and they went followed to Deion at Jackson State. Now, all due respect to the HBCU and FCS and all that level, playing in the Pac-12, playing in FBS is going to be a different experience. These players are going to see challenges. I want to see how they respond to those challenges of a better defense, more well-coached defenses, better athletes all across the board. How are they going to play? Because I have a feeling these guys are truly elite players, but now you're put in a different situation because the pressure is now on your shoulders to show off and to show up every single week. The target's now on Colorado. The target's on your backs of being the prime time show, pun intended. So, whether you want it or not, you got the smoke coming, and I really want to see how you guys respond and take advantage and show up every single Saturday. So I'm really trying to watch the two of them if they can put on a show. The team might not be great. I'm not saying they're going to win 8 or 9 games, but if the two of them can put on a show playing receiver and corner for Hunter, and obviously Sanders playing quarterback, it could show they're the real deal and that they can go to the league and do what they want. But I want to see what the two guys can do. My surprise team are the Arizona Wildcats. They've been laying in the weeds, haven't been to a bowl game in a while. What the coaching staff has done down there, they brought in a couple 4-star players last year. They got Redding coming in next year as a 5-star recruit. They're bringing the kids in down there in Tucson. They've put together an offense. Delory is a pretty good quarterback, can run around, make things happen with his legs. Watch out for the Wildcats. I think they're going to a bowl game this year. They might pull off an upset or really even shake it and change course for a couple teams. But watch out for the Wildcats. But my champion in the end, the USC Trojans. This time in Vegas, they will actually find a way to win the football game. The defense will do just enough, and Caleb will put up 18,000 touchdowns in the game, and the Trojans will win the Pac-12.
Wow, they're fresh. That's crazy. 18,000 touchdowns.
He's going to set a record.
That's a heck of a record right there. I love it. Hey, I had to call an audible there because we talked about parity from top to bottom, and I really think that you're right. There's a lot of parity in both these conferences, in the Big 12 and the Pac-12.